Okay, game. So let's talk about the overview of financial management, also known as corporate finance or business finance. In the Philippines, when you go to college, it is referred to as financial management. If you go to colleges abroad, it's called corporate finance. In your level, we just call it business finance. But definitely, the principles are very much the same. Yung sa inyo, nandun tayo sa intermediate level, no? Nandun tayo sa intermediate level. Okay? So, finance overall has three areas. Finance overall has three areas. So, what are the three areas of finance? Okay? What are the three areas of finance? We have financial management, capital markets, and investments. Financial management, capital markets, and investments. These are the three areas of finance. Now, financial management pertains to three activities which we are going to discuss soon. Capital markets is where funds are being transferred. Okay, long-term funds are being transferred, like the stock exchange, the bond market. Okay, these are called capital markets. We're going to touch a little of it. But again, the focus of our discussion is on business finance, which is financial management. Then investments, we have a separate chapter for this. So these are the three areas of finance. Okay, there is an intermixing of topics. So primarily, we will be dealing with financial management. Capital markets and investments are here to support our major discussion. So what are the financial management activities? Now, the scope of financial management include the following activities. What assets to acquire? We call this the investment question. How to raise the capital needed for the purchase of the assets? We call this the financing question. And number three, how to run the business on a day-to-day basis? We call this the operating question. Okay? So when we talk about the scope of finance, financial management to be specific, we are going to deal with three major issues. What assets to acquire? Ano sa mga assets yung bibilhin natin? Bibili ba tayo ng bagong building para sa ating negosyo? Bibili ba tayo ng bagong lote? Okay? Magpapatayo ba tayo ng bagong factory? Okay? What assets to acquire? What assets to acquire? We call this the investment question. Then we have how to raise the capital needed. This is called the financing question. Saan tayo kukuha ng pondo? Mangungutang ba tayo? We call that debt, liabilities. Okay? Mangungutang ba tayo? Are we going to borrow? We will have liabilities or debt. Or are we going to use owner-supplied funds? Yung bang pera ng pagmamay-ari, yun yung gagamitin ba natin? We call it equity. Okay? We call it equity. Then we have how to run the business on a day-to-day basis. We will deal with this more on working capital management. Okay? Yung mga pang-araw-araw na collection ng pera, pagbabayad ng mga expenses. Iba yung timing madalas ng revenue, kung kailan ka nagbenta mismo, tsaka yung pagpasok ng pera. When the transaction is between business. So for B2B transactions, B2B means business-to-business transactions. Usually, upon generating the revenue, you do not collect the cash immediately. You give them some period wherein they can prepare the cash. If your customers are business. Okay? Pero kung retail ang customers mo, nagko-collect ka kaagad ng cash, di ba? Okay? And the same is true for the payment. The payment and the incurrence of the expense, they are usually not on the same time. Okay? There's a timing difference. In all of these activities, we have one goal in mind. The goal of business finance is to maximize the owner's wealth. Okay? In the case In the case of corporations, we call them shareholders. In the case of a small business, we call it the proprietor. Okay? To maximize whoever the owner is, to maximize his or her wealth. Okay? So, what is the goal of corporate finance? Maximize shareholders' wealth. Okay? Again, I use the words interchangeably. Business finance, financial management, and corporate finance, they mean more or less the same thing. Okay? Ano yung meaning ng shareholders? The meaning of the shareholders, they are the owners of the business. Okay? They are the owners of the business. The goal of financial management is to maximize shareholders' wealth. Okay? Whatever the wealth of the shareholders are, we want to maximize it. Okay? Using whatever resources are controlled by the business. Okay? Shareholder wealth maximization, a shareholder wealth maximization is the primary goal of the corporation. It is the primary goal of the corporation. Okay ba tayo? So, this is not the same as maximizing profits. This is not the same as maximizing profits. Magkaibang bagay yung profit maximization. Okay, you know what profit maximization is? Yung bang gusto nyong taasan yung kita sa isang taon. Okay? Profits, net income, okay, yun yung mga terms, no? Nakapag-basic accounting na kayo. Net income, net profits, or simply profits, they are measured every year. Sir, matutuwa ba tayo kung mataas yung profit? Oo, matutuwa tayo kung mataas yung profit. Pero may mga ibang bagay na pwede nating gawin para tumaas yung profit. Pero in the long run, no? Kung titingnan natin 5 years from now, malulugi tayo. Magbibigay ako ng example. Okay, I'm going to give you example. Okay. Research and development. Okay. Research and development. Will it give us revenues or additional expenses? Anyone? Can anyone please answer? Research and development. We're going to conduct research and development. Ano yan? Expense or revenue? Okay, just answer expense or revenue. Okay, very good. That is an expense. Diba? So sabihin natin, uy, wag na kaya tayo mag-research and development. Wag na kaya tayo mag-research and development. Kasi kung magre-research and development tayo, nadadagdagan yung ating expenses. Okay? So, kung hindi tayo magre-research, mas tataas yung profit natin sa taon na ito. Pero baka mamaya, 5 years from now, mapag-iiwanan tayo. Okay? For example, si Nokia. Si Nokia ayaw niya mag-develop ng Android. No? Si Nokia ayaw niya mag-research and development sa Android. So what happened to Nokia? Nokia was able to maximize profits in the decision of not researching on Android. But in the long run, no, after how many years, nawala si Nokia. No? Nokia is no longer a major player in the mobile phone industry. Okay? So, maximizing profits is not the same as shareholder wealth maximization. There are things that can maximize short-term profits. However, in the long run, it will cost the company big time. Okay? It will cost the company big time. So when we are going to maximize shareholders' wealth, it's not the same thing as maximizing profits. And by the way, I forgot to mention, this should be accomplished within the bounds of ethical behavior. In other words, be good. Okay? There are many theories on ethics. Basta ang alam nyo, sa konsensya nyo, that you are doing the ethical business. Okay? So, if shareholder wealth maximization is not the same as maximizing profits, so how is wealth determined? Paano natin malalaman kung ano yung wealth? If shareholder wealth maximization is not the same, no? Hindi siya parehas dun sa maximizing profits, then what does it mean to make the shareholders wealthy. Okay? The definition of wealth is value. Okay? The value of an asset is the present value of the stream of cash flows that that asset provides to its owners over time. Again, when I say wealth, we want to maximize value. We want to increase value. The value of an asset is the present value of the future cash flows it is expected to generate to its owners over time. So, kailan nyo kinakalculate yung profit? Okay. Kailan nyo kinakalculate yung profit? Pagkatapos yung taon o bago umpisahan yung taon? When can you calculate profit? After or before the year starts? After the year ends or before the year starts? Okay, very good. So, end of the year. Yung profit na yan, when we calculate profit, tapos na yan. Nangyari na yan. When we are able to calculate profit, that profit has already been earned. In other words, nangyari na. But at the end of the day, what matters more is the future. Past profit sometimes can indicate future profits, but it doesn't follow all the time. No? It doesn't follow all the time that when you are profitable last year, you will be profitable next year. Okay? So although in accounting, most of you are so much obsessed with profits, here in business finance, we are future-oriented. Rather than focusing on profits, we put our focus on something in the long term. Okay? Yung something in the long term, yan yung value. How do we arrive at value? We will have a discussion on that. No? Present value. The value of an asset is the present value of the future cash flows, the stream of cash flows that that asset provides to its owners over time. That is what we mean by value. And the higher the value, the more wealth our shareholders or owners possess. Okay? Yun yung ibig sabihin ng wealth. Okay? Yun yung ibig sabihin ng wealth. Okay? Okay. Pagdating sa finance, no? Kung maliit lang yung company, pwedeng may finance manager. Okay? For a small company, a finance manager would be responsible for all the finance as well as the accounting stuff. Okay? But for larger companies, we may have the following hierarchy. No? Yung CFO, controller, and treasurer. Okay? Sige. So, do you have any questions so far? Just confirming, is everything clear so far? Is everything clear so far? First day natin ng lecture, no? So, gusto ko malaman kung tama yung pacing ko. Okay, kung may mga words na ako dito na tunog hindi nyo alam, okay, call my attention. Okay? Please call my attention anytime, whenever I use jargons, whenever I use concepts that are not yet familiar to you. Okay? And kung pwede, tanungin nyo agad, sir, anong ibig sabihin ng word na sinasabi mo? No? Okay. CFO, treasurer, and controller. In a large corporation, usually multinational corporations, the chief finance officer is the highest finance position in the company. CFO. CFO is the highest finance position in the company. He or she is responsible for managing the financial affairs of the company. Okay? CFO, highest finance position in the company. Siya yung ultimately responsible for managing the financial affairs of the company. Okay ba tayo? Now, if the company is really large, there's a separate controllership and treasury. Okay? Iba yung taong assigned sa pagiging controller, iba yung treasurer. Okay? Controller, mas malapit siya sa gawaing accounting. Treasurer, talagang business finance yung trabaho niya. At this point, nakikita nyo naman siguro yung difference, no? Si accounting, pinapa-journalize kami kung ano nangyari. Dito si finance, more on future-oriented tayo. Okay? The controller is the chief accountant of the company. No? So, accounting and finance, the highest position is the CFO. Okay? Accounting only, the chief accountant is called the controller. The controller is the officer responsible for overseeing the accounting, compliance, and regulatory reporting aspects of the business. Okay? Controller is the officer responsible for overseeing the accounting, compliance, and regulatory reporting aspects of the business. So, sino ang in charge sa accounting system? Kung ano mangyayari sa journal entries, no? Tapos papasok sa ledger, kung manual tayo. O kaya kapag modern tayo, okay, meron tayong mga enterprise resource planning, no? Mga ERP software. Hindi na lahat ng steps ng process, tao yung humahawak. Okay? So the accounting system, the adjusting entries, whether they are correct or they are done properly. That's the job under the oversight of the controller. Of course, the controller will have accounting staff, no? Meron mga accounting staff tsaka accounting assistant sa baba. Okay? Controller is the officer responsible for overseeing accounting, compliance. Do we comply with BIR requirements? Nagbabayad ba tayo ng tamang deductibles, katulad ng permits, katulad ng income tax, tsaka VAT, and regulatory reporting. Magfa-file ba tayo ng DTI? Okay, nakapag-file ba tayo ng DTI? Si controller yung gumagawa nun. No? Hindi naman siya yung gumagawa. Siya yung in charge, no? Siya yung tumitingin sa mga tao doon. Controller. The treasurer, on the other hand, is the officer responsible for the investing and financing activities of the business. Okay? Responsible for investing and financing activities of the business. The treasurer, no? Si treasurer yung bahala doon. Ano yung mga example nito? Example, magpapatayo ba tayo ng bagong building? Is it worth it? Okay, trabaho yan ni treasurer, no? To do cost-benefit analysis in the building the building. Okay? Financing activities. Financing activities pertain to where to source the funding. Investing, ano yung panggagamitan ng pondo? Financing, saan manggagaling ang pondo? Okay? So, pagdating sa investing, okay, nagbubuhos tayo ng pera sa machine, equipment, sa lupa, kung ano man yung kailangan nating assets. We acquire assets in investing. Are we going to build a new building? Okay. Is it worth it? Ang tawag dyan, capital budgeting. Okay? Sa college, mapag-aralan nyo yung capital budgeting, where you evaluate a long-term project. Financing activities, saan tayo kukuha ng pondo? Should we use debt or equity capital? Manghihiram ba yung company sa bangko o gagamitin yung may-ari, yung pera ng may-ari? No? So the officer responsible for investing and financing activities of the business. So in small companies, we do not need separate people to handle these matters. If the company is small, pwedeng isang tao lang. But for large multinationals, maybe there's a separate department for the controller and the treasurer. Okay? The CFO, the treasurer, and the controller. Okay. Let's now proceed to financial institutions. Okay? Let's now proceed to financial institutions. What are financial institutions? Financial institutions, or FI. An FI is a company engaged in the business of dealing with financial and monetary transactions, such as deposits, loans, investments, and currency exchange. Okay? So, most of us, your teachers in business finance, we are from the College of Business. We are from the Financial Management Department. And then yung mga majors ng student namin sa college, Management of Financial Institutions. No? Management of financial institutions. Yung major na tinuturuan namin sa college, no? Most of us are from the Financial Management Department ng College of Business. So kung hindi pa kayo nakapag-isip ng kurso sa college, you might consider, no? You may want to consider enrolling in our department, no? Financial Management Department. Usually their majors is Management of Financial Institutions. Can anyone give me an example of a financial institution? Can anyone give me an example of a financial institution? Yes, very good. We have a bank. Who else? Bukod sa bangko. Wala na? Bank lang yung alam nyo? Okay, very good. Insurance companies, credit unions. Okay, insurance companies, credit unions. So financial institutions encompass a broad range of business operations within the financial services sector, including the following. Banks. Okay, ano yung trabaho ng bangko? Anyone? Ano yung trabaho ng bangko? Okay. How do banks work? Okay. Banks typically work like this. They take money from those who have excess of it, depositors, no? And make it accessible to those who need it, the borrowers. So, yung bangko, okay, they take deposits and lend loans. No? They take deposit and lend loans. Now, the third function of a bank, tatlo yan, no? Dalawa na, no? So we have take deposits and then lend loans. Kukuha ng pera sa mga may sobrang pera, i-deposit natin yung pera natin sa bangko. Tapos, pwede rin pang utangan. Kung sino nangangailangan ng pera, pupunta sa bangko. The third function of the bank is to create money. Very few people know about this, but banks, they are creating money. No? The banks, they have the authority to create money as far as the substance of the transactions are concerned. Out of nowhere, they can actually create money. So, ang kailangan nyong malaman pagdating sa bangko, no? Ang kailangan nyong malaman pagdating sa bangko, okay, on a basic level, is that you may deposit your money here and you may take a loan. You may borrow money from there. Okay? What about insurance companies? What about insurance companies? Oh, may question pala. Huh? Sir, does financial institutions need to be private owned? Hindi naman. For example, yung land bank, government owned yung land bank. Okay, what do you mean by privately owned? Hindi siya owned by the government? Hindi naman. Meron tayong Development Bank of the Philippines. Meron tayong land bank. Ba? May mga government owned naman. Pagdating sa pension, andyan yung GSIS. No? Andyan yung government-owned na GSIS. Tinatawag tayong mga GCC. GOCC. Government-owned and controlled corporations. Okay? So I hope I answered your question and you may follow up if you have other questions. Now, can anyone tell me what an insurance company does? Okay, provides insurance in exchange with premiums. No? So the insured will pay premium and the insurance company will provide insurance. Ano ibig sabihin ng insurance? Okay? So when you define something to other people, try as much as possible to remove the word that you are defining. No? Example, insurance company. A company that insures, no? Usually, ganun yung dictionary, no? So, as much as possible, when you explain something, huwag kayo maging dictionary. Hindi ko nga alam bakit yung dictionary ganun, no? Parang tinatamad, no? So, what is teaching, no? The act of teaching, you know? Okay, what do we mean by insurance? Tama yun, no? Provides insurance in exchange with premiums. Ano ibig sabihin ng insurance? Ano ibig sabihin ng insurance? Okay, they provide po safety net for different events or items. Okay? Yeah, that's correct. So basically, insurance is a compensation for an shall I say, ano ba? Adverse event, no? From an unfortunate event. Yun na lang yung gamitin kong term, no? Unfortunate event. So, what insurance companies do is they absorb the risk of the insured. Example, life insurance, no? You have a family to feed, no? Very good. It gives protection from financial loss, no? They provide a safety net for different events or items. It gives protection from financial loss. So, for example, no? You have a family to feed. Paano kung nawala ka? Diba? So, you would purchase a life insurance, no? You may purchase a life insurance. So, sakaling may mangyari man sa insured, nawala yung buhay niya, yung pamilya niya, meron pa rin mapagkuhaan ng income, no? So, you're insuring your ability to earn. Okay? So, paano kung takot ka? Yung building mo, baka masunog, no? Yung building mo, baka mamaya masunog. E kung masunog yung building mo, okay, saan ka ngayon gagawa ng business? No? Okay. So, you can buy what can you buy? You can purchase a fire insurance, no? You can purchase a fire insurance. Kung masunog man yung building mo, the insurance company will absorb the losses, no? Will absorb the losses. So, are insurance companies and pension companies the same? The two can be combined, ha? May mga insurance na may pension. But do they mean the same? Do insurance and pension mean the same? Okay, magkaibang bagay yun, ha? Pension companies, they provide income after retirement. Life insurance companies, they provide income to the family of the person who died. Okay? Yung pension mo, pang-retirement mo. Okay? Yung life insurance mo, pag nawala ka, dyan kukuha ng pera yung pamilya mo. Okay? Pension companies, they provide the pension, the pensioner, no? Sorry, tama ba? The pensioner, no? Tama yung word ko. Okay, forgive me if mali. They provide the person with pension, okay? They provide the person with pension a retirement benefit. Okay? So magtatrabaho ka ng 40 years. Pag retire mo, you can rely on your pension. Okay? If you are going to take a pension fund. Now, when it comes to insurance companies, whatever premiums that are being paid to the insurance companies, they will be collectible by the person only when he or she dies already. Okay, magkaibang bagay yung insurance tsaka pension. Brokerage firms rather. Brokerage firms. Can anyone tell me what a brokerage firm is? Yung brokerage firm na yan. Okay, sila yung nagba-buy and sell. Okay, they connects the seller to the buyer. Of what? Okay. What are we talking about? Okay. They are usually buying and selling the securities, no? Properties, securities, very good. Okay? properties. So brokerage firms, they are the ones who link the buyer to a seller. So if you have a share of stock of San Miguel, you would like to sell it for 100 pesos. They are going to look for someone who is willing to buy it at 100 pesos. Example of a brokerage firm will be Call Financial. No? Alam niyo yung Call Financial? Okay, sana alam niyo na yung mga ganong bagay, no? So you can use their platform online for a minimum of 5,000 pesos. You may buy your shares, no? So what they do, they connect buyers and sellers of the stock, no? O kaya, in the case of other securities, pwede rin bonds or whatever, brokerage firms. So they connect buyers and sellers of a security. Okay? So an example of a stock brokerage firm is Call Financial. Yun yung pinakasikat, no? So meron pa rin tayong mga iba, mga field stocks, no? Hanapin yung field stocks, BDO Nomura, and then BPI Securities, and so on and so forth. Okay? Investment banks. Does anyone know what an investment bank is? Okay, does anyone know what an investment bank is? Okay, investment banks, they help companies raise capital. Okay? Especially yung mga IPO, initial public offering. Okay, example, gusto nyo na maging listed sa stock exchange, no? Nagtayo kayo ng company. Kasi itong company nyo, lumaki na. No? Gusto nyo yung stocks nyo accessible na sa public. Pwede na yung mga taong hindi nyo kilala, pwede na silang bumili ng stocks nyo. Maging part owner ng company. Well, sobrang laki ng company mo, no? So gagamitin mo ngayon yung pera ng strangers. Investment banks can help companies do an IPO, initial public offering, o kaya mag-i-issue ng shares. Kung hindi man initial public offering, kung hindi na yan bago sa'yo, edi mag-i-issue ng shares. Okay? Example, si Jollibee, wala pa siya sa Philippine Stock Exchange, no? Hindi pa siya listed company. So sabi ni Tony, no? Sabi ni Tony Tan Kakchong, gusto ko na maging publicly listed si Jollibee para madali tayong makakuha ng pondo. Okay? Na maliban sa bulsa niya, no? Maliban sa bulsa niya, makakakuha siya ng pondo sa ibang tao. So, magpapalist siya sa stock exchange. Okay? Hihingi siya ng tulong ng investment bank para gumawa ng mga shares, i-estimate yung share price, ano ba yung tamang presyuhan ng shares, at bilhin yung shares niya, tapos ibenta sa mga investors. Okay? Kung nabenta siya sa mga investors maliban sa mga kaibigan ni Tony Tan Kakchong, no? Yung may-ari ng Jollibee, edi listed na si Jollibee. Kaya lahat tayo, pwede nating bilhin si Jollibee, no? Pwede natin bilhin yung stock ni Jollibee. Paano kapag gustong magpadagdag ng pondo si Jollibee? Hindi na IPO yon. Hindi na initial public offering yon. It's already a seasoned offering. Investment banks help companies raise funds. Investment banks, they help companies raise funds, no? They help companies create capital. Sinabing capital, raise funds. Okay? What about mutual fund companies? What about mutual fund companies? Yeah, that's good. Advice. Sa investment bank, bukod sa paggawa ng IPO, marami sa mga investment bank nagbibigay ng advice, no? Advisory services. Tinutulungan nila mga malalaking kumpanya. Alin dito mga maliliit na kumpanya na pwedeng bilhin? Okay? May mga advisory services. Oy, big company, bilhin mo nga si small company, di ba? Okay. Investment banks can also give advice, no, on whether to buy or sell an entity under an entity. Okay? So going back, mutual fund companies. What are mutual fund companies? Mutual fund companies. Okay, combining multiple stocks, making them available for sale as a whole. Mutual fund companies, they take the money from investors, no? From the investing public, to create a fund. Kukuha siya ng pera sa investing public para magkaroon ng common fund. No? Itong common fund, pinambibili niya ng iba't ibang stocks, ano pa, mga stocks, bonds, at kung ano-ano man. No? So, imbes na bibili tayo ng stocks or bonds, gusto natin maramihan na yung bili natin. Hindi lang Jollibee, binili na natin yung lahat ng companies na nasa Philippine Stock Exchange. Example. So, pwede tayo lumapit sa mutual fund. Mutual fund, pwede ba ako bumili ng stock nyo? Pag bili nyo ng stock ng mutual fund, yung mutual fund na yon, nag-invest yon sa iba't ibang stocks, no? Iba't ibang stocks. Anyway, marami pang kwento dyan sa mutual fund. So, what about finance companies? What about finance companies? Anyone? What about finance companies? Oh, sorry. It's already 1:26. No? It's already 1:26. So, can we have an 8-minute break? Okay. 8-minute break lang, ha? Okay. We will have an 8 minutes break. CR or whatever you would like to do. Okay? So, see you in 8 minutes, ha? Okay, mag-break lang tayo saglit. Okay, we're back. So let us now resume our discussion. So as I was saying, mutual fund companies. What do mutual fund companies do? Mutual fund companies basically collect funds from savers or investors. Kunyari tayong lahat, limited lang yung pondo natin. Meron lang tayo tig 10,000. Each of us have 10,000 to spare for investment. So gusto natin bumili ng stocks and bonds. Ang problema, 10,000 lang yung hawak nating pera. Ano yung magiging issue natin? E di yung number of companies na pwede natin bilhin, limited lang, no? Kung isa lang yung 10,000 lang yung pera natin. What mutual fund companies do is they collect the funds from the investors and they would invest those funds to different stocks and or bonds or other securities. Nakuha niyo ba? So, lahat tayo tig 10K lang. So, kung 10K lang yung pera natin, ilang companies kaya nating bilhin? Pwede tayo bumili ng 5K kay Jollibee, 5K kay SM. Hindi ata kaya, 5K kay SM. So, mahirap, no? Kung 10K lang yung pera natin, ang kaya lang nating bilhin company, isa o dalawa, no? Only one or two companies can be bought with 10,000. But if we put our money in a mutual fund company, what it does is it collects our funds. So, tigda 10K tayo magbibigay sa mutual fund. And they are going to invest it in different stocks and bonds. So, our exposure is not only to the benefit of having one company, but many companies. Yun nga lang, risky rin, no? Pero mamaya may mga ibang companies doon malulugi. But generally speaking, at least in theory, the overall risk will go down the more the more baskets we put our eggs. If we invest in more companies, in theory, the level of risk goes down. No? Level of risk goes down. Okay? What about finance companies? What about finance companies? Ano naman yung gawain ng finance companies? Okay, they provide short-term loan. Yeah. Pwede rin naman long-term. Okay? Si finance company, hindi nakakatanggap ng deposit. Finance companies, they just provide loans. No? Pwede short-term, pwede long-term. No? They may borrow from banks. Yeah. Okay? They create loans with higher interest rates. Yeah, actually, yung finance companies, mas mataas yung interest. May mga tao na masyadong questionable yung ability nila magbayad. Hindi sila nakaka-approve ng loan sa bangko. Pero na-approve yung loan nila kapag sa finance companies. If you would look at the structure of a finance company, they are not allowed to take deposits. Hindi sila makakakuha ng deposits. However, they can lend money. So, finance companies are like one half of a bank, no? Nagbibigay ng loan pero hindi nakakatanggap ng deposit, no? Yeah, totoo yun, no? Minsan nangihiram sila sa bangko or kahit sa ibang companies pa, no? And then when they borrow from the bank, they would charge a higher interest rate. Okay? They can do that. So, any question about financial institutions? Okay, any question about financial institutions? Meron ba kayong mga tanong dyan? None? None. Okay. O, sige, sharing tayo. Now, what if you will take a major in financial institutions? O, sana dito tayo sa DLSU, no? Kuha kayo ng financial institutions. Just an example, no? Kasi, kunyari, masyado ng maraming accountancy. Ako, personally, I'm an accountant, by the way. No? I'm a CPA, by the way. However, mas gusto ko finance kaysa sa accounting. So, granted, sabihin na natin, no? You took accounting or finance, regardless of the course that you are going to take. Now, the question is, okay, if you are to work in a financial institution, saan kayo mag-work? Okay? Saan kayo mag-work? Where would you work if you are to choose a financial institution to work in? Will it be in banks, insurance companies, brokerage firms? Anyone? 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 Okay, si Basti, sa brokerage daw. Okay, bakit gusto mo sa brokerage, Basti? Why would you choose to be, for commissions, no? Okay. Mahilig kayo sa mga passive money, no? Sa mga easy money dito. Okay? Sige. So, brokerage daw, no? Sabi rin ni Eshil, no? So, both Basti and Eshil, please tell me if I'm pronouncing it right or gusto mong tawagin kang ibang pangalan. Anyway, so gusto daw nila sa brokerage, no? Because they just earn commissions, no? Tulungan mo lang yung buyer maghanap ng seller ng stock o si seller maghanap ng buyer. Tapos mangongomission ka sa kanila, no? So it looks like easy money. Okay? So kung ganun yung gusto nyo, no? Madali. Tama yan, no? Yeah, do not be guilty, no? If you want things to be easier for you, do not be guilty about it, no? Because most of yung mga nakakatanda sa atin, no? Mga nakakatanda sa atin, they believe that you should have a profession, then paghirapan nyo yung mga bagay. Well, that's true. Hard work is needed, pero not all hard work is counted, no? If there's an easy way of doing things, gusto nyo lang kumita, tapos gusto nyo mga mission, edi siguraduhin nyo, no? Na kaya nyong gawin yon. Kasi kung walang bibili or magbebenta, wala kayong mahanap na kliyente, di talo din kayo, no? Okay. Lee. Lee na lang. Lee na lang daw yung name. Okay. So you like to be called, no, your surname? Yan yung surname mo, apelido. Lee. Okay. Sige. So, yan, no? So, brokerage because you earn commissions. Okay? So, wala bang may gusto dyan maging insurance company? Ano ba? Finance manager? O baka gusto niya sa marketing, no? Gusto niyo maging agent. What about in investment banks? Sinong gustong magbigay ng advice regarding mergers and acquisitions? Okay? So, you have different selections here. No? Okay. Next, financial instruments. So, what are financial instruments? They are contracts for monetary assets that can be purchased, traded, created, modified, or settled for. No? They are contracts for monetary assets that can be purchased, traded, created, modified, or settled for. In terms of contracts, there's a contractual obligation between involved parties during a financial instrument transaction. Example, bibili kayo ng stock, no? Bibili kayo ng stock ng company. Anong obligasyon mo? Obligasyon mo magbigay ng stock sa seller. So sabihin na natin kaka-issue lang, no? Binenta sa inyo nung issuer ng company. Issuer na company. So kunyari, diretso kayo kay Jollibee bumili. Ano yung contractual obligation mo? Yung contractual obligation mo, babayaran mo sila ng pera? Okay. Ano naman obligation nila sa iyo? Their obligation to you is when there's a dividend declaration, they are going to give it to you. Okay? So there are contractual obligations between the involved parties. So again, financial instruments, they are contracts for monetary assets that can be purchased, traded, created, modified, or settled for. In terms of contracts, there's a contractual obligation between the involved parties during a financial instrument transaction. Okay? Types of financial instruments. Cash instruments. Cash instruments are financial instruments with values directly influenced by the conditions of the markets. Within cash instruments, there are two types. So the two types of cash instruments are securities, stocks, bonds, deposits and loans, no? Sa bangko. So may financial instrument ka kapag nag-deposit ka ng pera sa bangko. Kapag nanghiram ka, yung bangko may receivable sa'yo. No? Kapag nag-deposit ka, yung word na deposit, mali talaga yan. Ang totoong word dapat, loan din. No? Nagpautang ka sa bangko. When you deposit money in the bank, what actually happens is, you're giving your money to the bank in exchange for interest income. In the case of loans, baliktad, no? The bank will give you the money and then you will pay interest payments to the bank. Okay? So anong kinaibahan ng securities tsaka deposits and loans? Securities, kunyari bumili ka ng stock, there is a secondary market where you can dispose it. Ayaw mo na sa stock, ibenta mo sa ibang tao. Securities include stocks and bonds. Okay? So, may stock, may bond. Binili mo, ayaw mo na, pwede mo nang ibenta. Unlike deposits and loans, they are not designed to be bought and sold. Yung mga securities, usually they are standardized, no? Yung terms ng stock, no? Yung terms ng stock, tapos, no? Yung terms ng stock, tapos terms ng bonds, they are standard. Masasabi nyo talaga na uniform yung terms sa iba-iba, no? Uniform yung terms ng iba't nila. Kung sino man yung may hawak ng stock or ng bond. While yung deposits tsaka yung loans, may mga customer ka na maganda yung interest, may mga customer na pangit yung interest, no? Sa bangko. So financial instruments again, they are contracts for monetary assets that can be purchased, traded, created, modified, or settled for. One of the types of financial instruments is a cash instrument. Okay? They're directly influenced by the conditions of the markets. So may securities tayo, meron tayong deposits and loans. Derivative instruments. Derivative instruments are financial instruments that have values determined from the underlying assets, such as resources, currency, bonds, stock, and stock indexes. Example, meron kayong stock na pinag-iisipan nyo pa kung bibilhin nyo. Okay? May nakita kayong share of stock. Pinag-iisipan nyo kung bilhin nyo o hindi. Ano yung pwede nyong gawin? Pwede kayo bumili ng derivative. Isang example ng derivative, options. Okay? An option is a right to buy or sell an asset at a predetermined price within a predetermined time. Okay? So, meron kang stock na gustong bilhin. Ano yung stock? A stock is a security. What you can do is to buy a derivative. Hindi ka pa sure, bibilhin ko ba yung stock o hindi? Bumili ka muna ng option. Option to buy. So, for a small fee, you will be given the option to buy it at a certain price within a determined time. So question, yung halaga ng option, saan nakatali? The value of the option, where is it tied to? Saan nakadepende yung halaga ng option? Okay? Saan nakatali yung halaga ng option? Okay, nakatali yung halaga ng option sa halaga ng stocks. Na-imagine nyo? Example nagbibigay lang ako ng example. So, stock ni Jollibee. Pinag-iisipan mo kung bibilhin mo ba si Jollibee o hindi. Okay? Ayaw mo bumili agad, no? Pero gusto mo, pag bumili ka, yung presyo ng Jollibee stock, fix na, no? Hindi na magbabago-bago, no? Hindi na magbabago-bago. Tumaas man yung stock ni Jollibee, meron ka pa rin karapatang bilhin siya ng mas mababang presyo. Ang pwede mong gawin, bumili ka ng option. An option is a right to buy or sell an asset at a predetermined price within a predetermined period of time. An option is an example of a derivative instrument. The option to purchase Jollibee stock, its value is dependent on the stock of Jollibee. Derivative instruments are financial instruments that have values determined from underlying assets, such as resources, currencies, bonds, in our case, stocks, and stock indexes. The third type of financial instrument is a foreign exchange instrument. Foreign exchange instruments are financial instruments that are represented on the foreign market, primarily consists of currency agreements and derivatives. Okay? Currency agreements and derivatives. So, may mga derivatives na nasa foreign exchange instrument din. Example would be futures. So, kunyari, gusto mong bumili ng dollar, gusto mong i-fix na yung price ng dollar, hindi na magbabago. Okay? Bumili ka ng forward contract. No? Bumili ka ng forward contract sa dollar. Magtaas man or bumaba yung price ng dollar, meron na tayong fixed price para sa dollar. So the types of financial instruments may be complex at your level this time, but soon, okay, you would be able to understand this. Okay? Soon enough, maintindihan nyo, ano ba tong cash instrument? May mga derivative, no? So, pagdating niya sa college, makukuha niyo yan, no? And of course, if you're going to pursue accounting or finance. Asset classes of financial instruments, nagets nyo naman siguro yung pagkakaiba ni debt-based financial instrument and equity-based financial instruments. Financial instruments can also be categorized into two classes. Financial instruments can also be categorized into two asset classes. Debt-based financial instruments, these are mechanisms that an entity can use to increase the amount of capital in the business. Example would be bonds, debentures, mortgage, US treasuries, credit cards, and line of credits. So if you would buy a debt-based financial instrument, the company will essentially borrow from you. Is essentially borrowing from you. Okay? Example, binentahan ka ng company ng bond, no? So sabi ng Jollibee, oh, ito yung bond. Meron silang bonds payable sa'yo. Okay? So si company may liability sa'yo. Ikaw yung nagpautang kay company, no? We call that debt-based financial instrument. Popular example would be bonds. Okay? Debentures, bonds din yan. Pero yung debentures, walang collateral. Mortgages, it can be a bond or a simple loan, pero may collateral. Yung pagkakaiba ng debenture at mortgage, pareha silang utang. Yung debenture, walang collateral. Yung mortgage, may collateral. US Treasury, ito, yung gobyerno ng US ang nangungutang sa'yo. Okay? Equity-based financial instruments, these are mechanisms that serve as legal ownership of an entity. Examples include common stock, convertible debenture, preferred stock, and transferable subscription rights. Kung equity-based yung financial instrument mo, binibigyan ka ng pagmamay-ari or at least binibigyan ka ng option para maging may-ari sa company. Okay? So, what's the difference between a debt-based and an equity-based financial instrument? If you buy a debt-based financial instrument, the company owes you. May utang sa'yo yung company. If you buy an equity-based financial instrument, you own the company. Pagmamay-ari mo na yung company. Or at least, merong option on your part na maging may-ari. Equity-based financial instruments. Are we clear so far? Okay, are we clear so far? Ay, may question pala. So, hindi ko nababasa. For me naman po, I'm interested in insurance companies since iba yung fulfillment rin when it comes to securing one's life. Wow, so si Tracy, no? Tracy Joy, gusto niya ata maging insurance agent, kung tama yung pagkakaintindi ko, no? Magbenta ng insurance. So tama yan, no? Maraming mga Filipino hindi bumibili ng insurance dahil ayaw nila pag-usapan yung kamatayan. But for practical reasons, everybody should have some form of insurance, no? Especially if you have nothing to give to your dependents, no? Wala kang ipapamana, at least naman sana may insurance ka. Sabi ni Tracy Joy, gusto niya mag-work sa insurance company. Okay, sa Basti, may question. What do you mean by collateral? Okay, collateral, example. Pag nagsasanla kayo, di ba? O, alam niyo yung pagsasanla, no? Pupunta kayo sa pawn shop. So, kukunin nila yung relo mo, no? Yung relo mo, yung collateral. Sakaling hindi mo mababayaran, kukunin nila yung relo mo. Diba? So, example ng collateral, sa Tagalog, yung word na sanla, maraming ibig sabihin. No? So, pupunta kayo sa pawn shop. Pautang naman pawn shop. Sa yung pawn shop, o sige, pwede bang akin na lang muna yung relo mo? Ilagay natin sa locker ng pawn shop. Sakaling hindi mo mabayaran utang mo, ibebenta nila yung relo mo. Yun yung collateral. No? We call that pledging. No? We call that pledging. Pero kung yung collateral ay hawak mo pa rin, katulad ng bahay, no? Utang ka sa bangko, tapos nakasanla yung bahay, ang tawag doon, mortgage. Dahil hawak mo pa rin yung collateral. Hindi mo binigay sa lender yung collateral. Hawak pa rin ng borrower. Okay? Sa Tagalog, yung word na yan, sangla. No? Sangla. Pero sa English, may pagkakaiba yung word na mortgage tsaka pledging. Pledging, si borrower, ibibigay niya yung collateral dun sa lender. Okay? Para hindi itakbo. Siyempre, yung relo madaling itakbo. Pero meron din mga collateral na hindi na kailangan ibigay sa lender. Katulad ng bahay. Pwede mo bang itakbo yung bahay mo? Siyempre hindi, no? So kahit doon ka muna tumira sa bahay, naka-collateral yung bahay mo. Kasi imposible naman, kahit anong gawin mo, na itakbo mo yung bahay mo. No? So yun yung collateral, no? Sangla. Okay? So any more questions? Nagets nyo ba yung pagkakaiba ng debt-based tsaka equity-based financial instruments? Kung bumili ka ng debt-based financial instrument, may utang sa'yo yung company. Kung bumili ka ng equity-based financial instrument, pagmamay-ari mo na ang company. Is everything clear? Is everything clear so far? Okay ba tayo? Is everything clear? Okay. So please confirm. Kung meron pang mga hindi malinaw, please raise them immediately. Okay, surprise attack. Attendance. Turn on your cameras. Everyone, go. Turn on your cameras. Okay, turn on your cameras. Titingnan ko lang ha. Okay. Lahat ba nandito? Okay, very good, no? Very good. Sino yung wala? Sino yung wala? Okay. 6 others. Okay, very good, no? Everybody is here. Sa second day pa lang ng klase, no? Dapat wala pang pasaway sa mga ganitong panahon. Okay. Sige, you may now turn off. Balik tayo sa lecture. You may now turn it off. Balik tayo sa lecture. Okay, next. Financial markets. What do you mean by financial markets? Financial markets refer broadly to any marketplace where trading of securities occurs, including the stock market, bond market, forex market, and the derivatives market, among others. Okay? They refer broadly to any marketplace where you can trade stocks, bonds, foreign currencies, derivatives, among others. They facilitate what we call the capital allocation process. Financial markets facilitate the capital allocation process. So what's this capital allocation process? There's a person here who said, I need funds, no? Sabi ng person na to, I need funds. Kailangan kong magtayo ng negosyo. Kailangan kong mangutang o kaya maghanap ako ng partner, no? Kung sinong pwedeng makisosyo, no? Maging kasosyo sa negosyo, no? So, either naghahanap ka ng mangungutangan o kaya maging sosyo sa negosyo dahil kulang yung pondo mo. I need funds. Marami akong idea na iniisip. Ang dami kong pwedeng pagkakitaan na idea. Kaso wala akong pondo. Yun yung sabi niya. Okay? Itong taong to, wala siyang alam, no? Wala siyang alam na gagawin. I have too much funds. So, yun. Sana all, no? I have too much funds. Pag sinabi niya I have too much funds, nakatenga lang yung pera niya siguro, no? Nakatenga lang. Hindi nagagamit yung pera niya. Okay? So, The capital allocation process is the flow of capital from those who have it to those who need it. From those who have a lot of it to those who need a lot of it. Okay? From those who have it to those who need it. Sabihin niya, uy, may pera ako. Papautangin ko na lang sa'yo. Dahil gagamitin mo pera ko, bayaran mo ako ng interest. Kasi pagkakakitaan mo yung pera, di ba? Babayaran mo siya ng interest. Okay? So, kung kasosyo naman, sige, yung idea mo, subukan natin, mag-ambag ako ng pera. So, kung may kita, makikihati ako. So, capital allocation process refers to the flow of funds from those who have too much of it to those who need it. These markets may include assets or securities that are either listed on regulated exchanges, katulad ng Philippine Stock Exchange, Philippine Stock Exchange, wherein the buyers and sellers of the stock would buy and sell the shares of stock of listed companies, or else traded over the counter. Dito sa Philippines, may tinatawag tayong black market. So kung gusto natin bilhin yung stock, pero ayaw natin dumaan sa exchange, gusto natin ng ibang presyo, kung pumapayag sila ng ibang presyo, pwede tayo pumunta sa black market. Sa Amerika, meron talagang mga over-the-counter transactions na hindi sa black market. Research nyo yung NASDAQ, NASDAQ. It's not really an exchange, but you can buy or sell your shares in NASDAQ. Okay? So do you have any questions? Do you have any more questions? Okay? Wala kayong mga tanong talaga? So, clear na talaga? No questions? None? Okay, clear. Okay, sure kayo? Clear na talaga? Okay, none. Okay, wala na talaga? Sure na yan? Meron pa tayong 12 minutes, no? Meron pa tayong 12 minutes. Baka gusto nyong gamitin yung 12 minutes for something else. Okay, sure ha? Wala talaga yung tanong? Next meeting, we will proceed to financial statements. Basti, may question pala? Sure, no problem, no? More discussion, better learning, okay? So, sige Basti, you may type your question. So the difference po sa debt tsaka sa equity financial instrument. Ang debt equity yung company hinihiram, yung company nang hihiram, tapos yung equity, no. Okay, ulitin ko ha. When we say debt tsaka equity instrument, okay, ibibigay natin yung pera sa company. Okay, investor tayo ha. Investor tayo. Ano ang relasyon natin kay company? Si company ba ay nangungutang lang sa atin? Debt-based equity. Debt-based yung instrument na yon. Or, si company ba yung binigay niyang instrument sa atin, nangungulugan bang tayo yung may-ari ng company? Katulad ng stocks? Equity-based yon. So, ulitin ko ha. The company is the one who is going to receive the funds. We investors, we're going to put funds to the company. Namumuhunan tayo, investor tayo. We're going to put our money in the company. But the question is, yung pagbigay ba natin ng pera sa company, nangangahulugan bang may utang yung company sa atin? Debt-based yun. Or nangangahulugan ba yun, tayo yung may-ari ng company? Equity-based yun. Is that clear? Is that clear, everyone? Okay. So, yun yung ibig sabihin ng debt-based, no? Tsaka equity-based. So, if we will buy bonds from a company, that is debt-based because the company owes us. Magbabayad siya ng interest sa atin. If we buy stocks, we become the owner of the company. Hindi lang tayo nagpautang, tayo na talaga yung may-ari ng company. They will pay us dividends. Okay? Any more questions? Any more questions? Will you upload the PowerPoint po? Better than uploading the PowerPoint, I'm going to upload the lecture. Okay? The recording of this lecture. Okay, mas comfortable ako mag-share kung naka-video format siya, no? Hindi siya madali, no? Hindi siya madaling gayahin, no? It will take effort. So, as per requirements, regulatory requirements, I am obligated to record and share to you this lecture. Okay? Okay, sige. So, kung wala na kayong mga tanong, no? Parang pinipilit ko na lang kayong magtanong. Okay, kung wala na kayong mga tanong, we'll call it a week. Tapos na yung first week natin. Next week, we will proceed to financial statements. Thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of your day.